Welcome to the J.Geiger Studios podcast, where we help you achieve your ideal outcome. We're here to provide value to you and your organization every step of the way. I'm your host and guide on this journey, J.Geiger, and I'm happy you are here with us today. Today in the studio, we have Kristin Bock. She's our friendly neighborhood body language expert. We'll be discussing a variety of topics today, starting with, I think, how we met. Yeah.
Right.
Do you remember?
I absolutely. Packerland user group.
That's right.
Yes.
A very close-knit J.D. Edwards user group here in Northeast Wisconsin.
Yes.
Where everybody knows each other, like going back 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was the speaker, and I remember you, Jeff, because when I was done, you came up and you stood out because you were curious. Like, you had a ton of questions, and that's my favorite kind of person. And you immediately were interested in my website, your website, socials, how you could apply it, and just started asking a lot of questions. So
exactly.
That is, yes.
Yeah,
I remember.
I remember that. So that was at the new Oshkosh headquarters, Oshkosh Corporation
Gorgeous.
Headquarters. Absolutely. Great views.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what surprised me the most about that is how engaged people who I thought wouldn't have been engaged in that were. That people who are maybe a little quieter or a little bit more techie, that they were really interested in the subject matter there. That part of it kind of blew my mind. And not only did I want to see how, hey, could we take this and apply it to what we have going on, but I think there's something here that our team could really use, and I can't just assume that they're not going to like it, or that that's not for us.
Right. Yeah.
So,
no, I just remember you being asking really great questions and being curious, which is a sign of a good leader.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. That's very humbling. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I try.
Yes.
So at that point, so you got introduced to the Packerland user group through some of our members there.
Through Diane.
Okay.
Miller reached out to me. I'm not sure where she found me, but she was wonderful, and we had conversations, and yeah, she hired me, and that's kind of when my love of working with people in the tech world started.
Okay. Was that your first experience with it?
First real one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought, how fun. It just, because like you said, people were really interacting, or when I was walking around, I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing, we realize, I guess, like in hindsight, I could see it now, is that we realize that we're having to communicate digitally with people. We have to communicate with our PowerPoint presentations and whatnot. We have to be on web meetings. Sometimes, like Matt and Justin on our team, they get nervous about being up in front of people, although they've gotten pretty good at it now. They're not as much a newbies anymore, but it's really something that is so much value.
Well, the pandemic was a gift for me because so much of it was virtual and digital, and I was figuring it out alongside of everyone, but my background in body language just lended itself quite well.
Right.
To
so
that world.
Tell me about that a little bit more. What was the first aha you had with that?
My first big aha was noticing myself on camera.
Okay. Right.
And how my face wasn't super engaging.
Right.
like I had just the RBF, the resting bothered face, and how that stood out to me, and realizing I have to be aware of how I'm showing up, because that's what this is.
Right.
And people were on camera. We were on camera for so long, and just so. Yeah, that's when I started diving in a little bit deeper, and what can we do to build connection in this weird time?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something. And so many people push back against cameras being on, but you can't build connections if you don't have that.
Right. And that's something your team has worked on, correct?
Yep, we have. I think it's pushed a little bit more by me, and I'm just doing it by example. I'm not mandating anything.
Yeah.
But we do have meetings with customers where they lead the charge. We have to be willing to do that and not just sit there with our camera off, unless there's a reason why you shouldn't.
Right. Okay. So you mean they have theirs on?
Yes.
The customer, yes.
Right. The customers will show up to the meeting. They'll have their cameras on. We need to be ready for that.
Right.
And we shouldn't be the only ones with the camera off.
Right.
Because I'm assuming that that's something that could erode trust.
Well, okay, let me go into lecture mode.
Okay. All right.
So neuroscience, our brains are hardwired to look for patterns, and faces are patterns.
Okay.
And that is why we crave it, which is the example I always give is LinkedIn. When's the last time we clicked on a profile that was just a silhouette?
Right.
We need that. So even when I went through my training, this was before digital stuff, they were talking about how if you're on a call with someone, like a phone call, having their LinkedIn profile pulled up or a picture of them, it allows you to feel more connected when you're talking to them.
Okay.
So just the importance of a profile picture, but just, yeah. So I would say I'm a big advocate for
Right.
cameras. There's a time and a place that you don't have to have them on, but yeah, we feel more connected when we can
Right.
see someone.
Right. Yeah. I can think of a few reasons why you wouldn't want to have your camera on, like when maybe you're in a chaotic situation or something like that you can't control, or which would include, for instance, I was in Denver a couple months ago and I had to be on a conference call. Everybody had their cameras on. I was in the lobby of the hotel. I still put it on, but I kept, when there would be too much chaos going on around me, I'd shut it off temporarily and then turn it back on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which that's got negative impact too. Like if you shut it off and turn it back on again, it's like, well, what are you doing? You're not paying attention to what we're talking about.
Right. But you're smart to turn it off because we notice movement.
Okay.
Which is why when people get up or you're on camera, even in a group setting and someone comes in and you're looking away, we know that.
Right.
Because we track that movement. So yeah.
We're pretty smart.
I know.
We need a lot more than just words, and we need a lot more than just pictures. So how did you get into this profession?
Self-help.
Okay.
It was self-help.
You needed it. And
Yes.
so therefore, like,
Yeah. Okay. Born wildly insecure and shy, would marvel at the people around me and think, how do they do it? How do they interact? The people the Jeff Geigers that walk in a room and own it, I would think, what is that?
I wasn't always that way.
Well, I want to hear your journey then too.
Sure.
But so that's just trying to figure that part out. Graduated college, took a job with people with disabilities, developmental disabilities. So I literally started working with people that were nonverbal.
Okay.
Got good at reading the room because that's a smart thing to do. If I see that Jeff is getting upset and I go over and I can intervene before you start having problems.
Right.
That's
because
a win.
Jeff might not vocalize it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I started figuring it out, but it wasn't until I was asked to train that I thought, oh, I don't know how to stand in front of a group.
What were you asked to train?
So I was there 26 years.
Okay.
And I was asked to train the new hires coming in on all like the state regs. So resident rights.
So it wasn't necessarily having to do with this. You just had to get up in front of a crowd of people.
Yes. And very quickly thought, ooh.
Wow.
That's
26 years. That is a long time to stay in a career.
I know, because I'm
in
28.
That's right. In this day and age of people only being at their employment for a couple of years. That's amazing.
Yeah, but I really did see the power of it. So when I started to stand differently, interact differently, lean in, pay, there was a lot of things. I literally could feel it. And it wasn't until I had a fellow trainer come in and later on she's like, what are you doing? Because you had them in the palm of your hand. And I was like, this is working.
Yep.
This is working. And then I was promoted to direct the training department. So I knew it had value.
I have a few other people I think I need to introduce you to that you just sparked me to do that. Yeah. Wow. And so 26 years, that led you up to when? A couple years ago or so?
So I ended up leaving the agency, took a job at a retirement community. It was a newly created position and loved it. But they realized about a year in, they couldn't sustain it. And that was February of 2020.
Oh, yeah. I don't remember what happened that year. Anything interesting?
So as I was just starting to look for jobs, the world shut down. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. I would feel bad if I didn't pursue this.
Right.
So that's when I started.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. You had to be thrown into something like that. But sometimes that's the nudge we need. Yeah. That's pretty great.
And I'm still standing.
Yeah. I'm really impressed too with your logo and the avatar that's kind of part of all that, the coloring you use, the font.
Right.
I'm assuming that's all purposeful.
It is. So thank you for noticing. The logo is my face because I said faces are important. So that lines up, that tracks. I use a lot of blue and yellow, and that's representing warmth and competence because it's a blend of both that give you influence. So yeah, and I want to be fun and engaging. So I kind of go with the comic book or the more
like those types of fonts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the speech bubbles, because I truly believe people are walking around with like a speech bubble over their head.
Right.
They need to know what it's saying.
So did you do all that yourself or did you have an agency help you?
Yeah, that was paid for.
Okay.
That was
all right.
hired.
You had a vision for it, but
Right.
Okay.
Right. And then they helped create it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried kind of going the really unpaid, inexpensive approach years ago, and I had this envision that like with the song Brown Paper Packages Tied Up in String,
yes.
you know, that kind of thing, very homey, very reliable, you can count on it. That was my vision. Something like that. It doesn't translate very well with logo and coloring.
Right.
And we did a version of our website and everything like that. And even though that was my intention, I think it just ended up coming off as being kind of poorly put together and cheap. But it was based on my vision. So I did have some help. And so it wasn't necessarily anybody that helped me with it. Then years later, when we started actually hiring employees and whatnot, one of the gentlemen that we brought on had a background in design and whatnot. And we're still using the logo he created back then with the font. So good friend of Justin's.
Well, okay. What is the expression? It takes a lot of work to make something look effortless. True.
That's true.
You know, like even the most simple designs really have a lot that goes into it.
Right. And then since then, we've been really purposeful about, and that, hence why I came up and talked with you, because I think we did a really good job of the initial rollout of that, but I felt like there were some edges we need to knock off a little bit to make it even crisper and to make sure that, because through the course of the presentation that you gave, I had a couple of epiphanies like, oh my gosh, if we're doing this wrong, we could be sending the complete wrong message. So
tell me about that. What do you remember? Like what your thoughts were during that?
I think it had to do with the pictures we were using, the way that our website was formatted, the things we'd say, how we'd say it. It had to do too with our profile pictures that we had out there, a number of different things. And actually, since then, not because we don't want to connect with people personally, we've actually pulled our profile pictures off. We found that it was a security problem.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, we had someone impersonate one of our employees and send in ACH information and get the paycheck routed to a bank or bank account. And then by the time we caught it, it was already too late. So.
Okay. A new wrinkle.
A wrinkle. Yep. So we had the best intentions of having a great presence and, finding ways to connect. And someone, really, you think about it, it's really easy. Oh, here's this person's name. I'll try a couple different resume or email formats. I'll fill out a form, send here. I'd like my payroll sent to this. Make it sound like, maybe even do some research on the person and find out some stuff that's, on LinkedIn or whatever. Too easy. And we had our 2 checkpoints. I wasn't involved in that. Our 2 checkpoints in that, one was on vacation and is really conscientious about getting everything done. And so I was like, well, I don't want this to wait, so I'm going to send it on vacation. I'm going to get it done. The other was someone's like, oh, well, then I'm being told to do this, so I'm going to do it. So we put in place a new couple bits of security.
Okay, interesting.
So
all right.
Those are some of the reasons why we wanted to explore the body language side. And then when we got to talking, I brought you in to meet Jordan, and I think was Joy here too, and Justin.
Yep. We
sat and talked about like doing some of those blocking and tackling things, but then we decided to do the utilize your skills for value added content for our events, because we believe really strongly that we want to have shared experiences.
Right. Well, and you wanted, what I remember is really wanting like customer service to really build that connection and serve deeply.
Exactly. And we figured, well, putting together what I mentioned before, that I was kind of shocked at how engaged our, that tech people were. okay, maybe we're not all, such introverts and only want to look at our shoes, and we really want to be good at it. So I thought that, and combining that with our events was a good thing. So whoever came up with that idea, I don't remember who came up with it first, but Diane. It was a great idea.
Yeah.
So, did you, looking back, what are the things that you think that you helped us the most on? Or is it hard to?
Well, a lot of things, but I guess I had never considered the conference angle, that companies are spending tremendous amounts of money, getting there, paying the conference fee, but then getting the merchandise to set up a booth.
Right.
So that was a pleasant surprise. Like, oh, this is actually a really great area to be helpful. And how do we set up our booth? How can we be welcoming? So that I felt
it could be anywhere from several thousand to many tens of thousands, and maybe even more.
Right.
And that was really a good use of our time, where we had you come in and do one-on-one coaching with those folks that would be in the booth during the conference.
Yes.
And I know several of our team, I see them using the different techniques, like the feet. Yep. And what's it called? Fronting,
yes. Yep. Giving your full nonverbal respect, and being welcoming, and actually I'm doing the Youth Expo again this year, but that's one thing that employers will say is, and this is for kids, but that they just stay in these clumps and they don't know how to break out and actually have a conversation with people.
I can totally picture those clumps.
Right.
Yep.
So that's a new endeavor for this year. But so that was super fun, just giving awareness. And I think by your second conference, you had bigger space.
We did, yep.
But you had 2 high tops. And we're kind of figuring out, again, how to be more engaging. I think Joy had the photo booth and there was a lot of things, but how do I attract someone to come in and speak with me and then build that relationship?
Yep. I could rattle off a bunch of things that we did that you helped us with. When we were talking with each other, we would make sure that we weren't fronting. We were
have your feet open.
Yep.
The cashew shape is
Yep. If we did need to check our phones, we were really conscientious about not just sitting there looking down at our phones, because that shows closed off that you don't want to be interrupted.
Correct.
We held our phones up and looked at it, from the side, little side glance. It looked kind of smart and, whatever with it. So that's really great. When we were talking with customers and whatnot, we made sure to kind of do the fronting thing and close off with them, make sure to have the right eye contact, not creepy, not,
the just right.
That's right. And so we used a lot of those techniques. And then the other one, it wasn't just with that. We also have done presentations at those events. So we do a lot of effort to give back to the user community with our presentations. I mean, we spend probably tens of hours preparing for those, week or more kind of a thing. And we want to not only get the best out of it and show up the best, but we also want to get people to engage so that it's the best presentation as it can be. And we learn quite a bit from you on that.
Right. Well, and that's an area I'm really leaning into, but even the non-verbals.
Hopefully not leaning too much, because isn't that a no-no? So,
well, if you really get in their space.
That's right.
Helping, because especially at conferences, people see your photo and your bio and the write-up of this, the presentation. That's what they're judging you on. That's all nonverbal.
Right.
They've not met you. So understanding how to leverage that.
They may not have even read the details of what you are doing, and
Right. So that, copy, and then just the presentation itself. Because I've been studying presenting for the last several years, I feel like I've learned a lot, continue to learn a lot, but just how to be more engaging, how to tell more of the story than all the bullet points.
Right.
That's, I'm stereotyping, but that's a big thing in this area where people want to show everything they know and they don't want to admit anything, when really what sticks with us is the emotion. So did you spark curiosity?
Right.
Did they feel excited about what you're saying? Not, did I give them every last crumb of information?
Do you think that cadence is something that could be worked on a bit, that people try, in that they want to get everything out, so they talk really fast?
Oh, and nerves, of course.
And nerves.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yes. Yes. So I really like the Justin Matt kind of tag team.
Quite a duo going on there.
Yeah, that there's an art to that. You can play off one another. There's a lot of energy there. I know they're very engaging, but that again, it takes work to make it look effortless. And I'll just add, even with like doing a keynote, the information I've been taught for every minute of your keynote, it's an hour. So if you're giving a 60-minute keynote, you should have put it a minimum of 60 hours of
prep. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we are putting in quite a bit of time, and I think for each one, it probably about adds up to that.
I mean, you're writing, you're crafting, you're reworking,
Yep. And we're working on the presentation. We're working on the content we're demonstrating. Yep. Yeah, they've become really good at it. We do recycle content too. That does help.
Absolutely.
We've been able to practice quite a bit. So when you are in person, are there any like key, like if you had 3 things that you should always do when you're in person with somebody, what would that be?
Like just in general, showing up?
Yep.
My big learning was to be very open. That was something, and I'm reflecting on myself, but we
don't have cameras on.
Right.
And your hands are up and open.
Yes.
And on purpose, not closed, and you don't have your arms crossed like I do right now.
Which, if I rewind and would look at footage of me when I was teaching, I would be crossing in front of me. Like, we're attracted to people that are more open and welcoming, and we send a lot of messages with that. So I would tell people to not block, which is crossing your arms, standing behind a podium, putting a purse, a clipboard, anything in front of you. So being very open is a huge cue for our brain. And then our hands, using our hands.
So that's number 1. What else would you always make sure to do?
Use your hands. Don't put them in your pocket. Our brain likes to see them. It makes you a more effective communicator because I'm seeing it and also hearing it. So that makes me a little bit more of an influential communicator. It sticks more.
Okay.
So using hands specifically, not not like jazz hands.
So 1, and then 2.
Oh, very nice. Yes. And what would my third one be? I think just kind of the empathy that you're nodding, you're giving the person the other cues. I call it social quicksand. That when you don't have expression, it's really stressful for the other person because they can't gauge how they're doing. So nodding your head.
Give some cues to them so that they know how they're doing.
So nodding, even the like just vocal encouragement, a head tilt, that is a cue for our brain that we know the other person is engaged.
Be open. Show your hands and give them some feedback about what they're doing with your nonverbals. With your nonverbals.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. You didn't say in there anywhere about not having a creepy stare or anything like that.
Well, that's a good one.
That's one that people
That's a bonus tip.
That's a bonus tip.
Yes.
Oh man. So, another thing is we're doing all this stuff with electronic communication. I think most everyone can empathize, or maybe they've realized through something that they've done, the way everything down to how you phrase stuff and what method of communication you use can impact things. In fact, just the other day, Nick sent me an email. Now I'm forgetting what it exactly said. Not an email, a text. And he said something about that we needed to talk about something, but he didn't tell me the details of it. And then a week later, he said, I wasn't feeling well, so I had gone home in the afternoon and I took a quick power nap. I wake up from my power nap and there's a text. We need to talk about the meeting with our customer today. I'm like, what?
Right.
We have a meeting. Wait, did I miss it? It's not on my calendar. A meeting with our customer today. Oh, he meant I would like to talk to you today about the meeting we have coming up with our customer on Wednesday. And for a minute there, and before he responded, I was a little bit freaked out.
Right. Well, perfect example, because the digital world, you can't see expressions. Enter the emoji or punctuation. There's a lot. So Erica Dewan is an author of digital body language, and she talks a lot about that. And even just generationally.
We've had that book around the office.
Yes.
I started in on the audio version of it, and I haven't hit play on it in a while. I started it and then hit pause and didn't pick it back up again.
So even the generational differences, that my child who's in his 20s communicates very differently than me, and understanding those differences
I use punctuation and capitalization.
Right.
Why don't you, young person?
Whippersnapper. Yeah.
That's right.
Or I'm fine on a phone, and probably younger people don't love that.
Right.
Or
who leaves voicemails anymore?
Right. So so there's a lot to unpack there and really get good at. And that's another thing that I'm really interested in is just like emails and texts. How can you be better with that? Be more engaging, because it's really easy to blend in. Super hard to stand out.
What is the expectation? I'm going to dive in on one thing in detail. What's the expectation on when someone gets back to you if they text you? Like if you're on a friendly enough basis where you have their cell phone number to text them, what's the expectation there?
Tell me more. What, like
so
a time frame?
Right. So let's say you have, what if you never respond? That's probably not good.
Well, people have different takes on that. I am guilty as charged, but I try not to ghost. Like I'll just I do more with like the unsolicited sales.
Right.
And I often will just do a quick thing back saying, thank you for reaching out. I'm not interested.
Right.
And I'll often get people saying, thank you for letting me know, because I know they get ghosted all the time. But,
so if your son texted you, hey mom, I want to talk. Do you have a minute? And then you never respond.
Well,
that would never happen.
That would be.
What? You need to talk? What's going on, son?
Yes. My 21-year-old is notorious for not getting back to me. And I'm like, what? But I put my phone on do not disturb. So I go for chunks where I'm not checking it out of respect because I'm in a meeting or I'm doing something. But I think that's
probably a lot to unpack even there. Well, I happen to know somebody who's not very good at technology, and I'm asking for her. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Jordan knows who it is. Yeah. Well, Lisa, I tell you, she hadn't sent. She feels embarrassed about it, but I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed about. She hadn't sent an email until within this year.
Wow.
On her own. And she's probably now sent 50 or 60. And I've probably sent like 50 or 60 within the last few days. And she was able to, because of the, with her eldest son, with Justin, they'd send an envelope home from school. With Jordan, they started with that email communication and whatnot. And she bucked the system until she couldn't anymore. And then he got to be in middle school and they really didn't send home an envelope anymore.
Yeah. Now
But she didn't have to do it. And we weren't ones that would sit and hover, to make sure that homework was done and all that. I think that's a subject for another podcast.
Yes. Well, that was our take too. That we always would joke, well, if you're not worried about passing, why should I? Why should I worry about it? That's your problem.
Especially when they get to be that age. But she's really had to adapt, and she loves the more like what we're experiencing here together. Now, everybody listening, you can't see this, but we're looking at each other and smiling, and we can connect. That's what she likes, and she doesn't like the disconnect that it creates when you're just doing something so informal as, texting or emailing or whatever. So,
right. Well, and I understand that. I would push back a little bit and just say that it's just a different way of doing it. And you just need to find the way that, you can personalize it. She can add, is it GIF or GIF? I don't know.
I think that's for another podcast
that's
too.
A debate. But you can add things in that show more of your personality, and that she could kind of balance that, where otherwise it might not feel like a real true connection for her.
Yeah, she started with things like exclamation points and LOLs and stuff like that. Although maybe not an LOL. That might be me. But are there any absolute don't do with electronic communication, or
I
have some opinions there. Like if you have something really serious, and you can call or something else, maybe start with that, or say, hey, I really need to talk to you. It's pretty important.
Yeah. Yes.
And then talk to them in person.
Yes.
And don't do it on a text.
Right. And I think even in that book, The Digital Body Language, there's some rules that, if your emails should not be super long. that's a phone call then.
Right.
Like that. I think she actually gives some parameters
Okay.
within that. But yeah, so kind of short and sweet. Otherwise we get overwhelmed
Right.
with all of that. But yeah, anything personal or confidential.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. And I'm sometimes guilty of the too long emails. It doesn't start that way, but after I've kind of gotten all my thoughts together, it ends up really long. And then the people that do that to me, I get mad at, and I'm like, well, I feel bad for being mad because I do this myself.
Right.
So now what about how you use your social media and stuff like that? Do you ever address any of that sort of thing in your through your?
Yeah, I'm really rethinking things. So I'm older. It doesn't bring me joy like Facebook and some of these other things don't. So I've really just tried to consolidate. I'm doing just more on LinkedIn. I don't know that I want to do TikTok or Twitter or all these other things. So that's a personal thing.
Right.
Where I'm figuring it out, but I just want to have kind of true connections and kind of be more strategic about it because I don't want to waste my time posting, I don't know, frivolous things.
We're starting to explore some other mechanisms based because I think each platform has its own thing that makes sense. We're not doing TikTok, right? No, but we're doing Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and then LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn's very professional.
Yep.
We want our personality to show through as a company. However, we want to keep it very professional. We want to inject a little bit of fun into it, but we don't want to spam people or have it be bubblegummy.
Right.
With the Instagram shorts, quicks.
Yes.
We want our personality to shine through on that, and it's more about fun.
Yes.
Less about the the business side of it. So, Facebook, I think it's still up in the air how we're going to use that.
Well, there's a big difference here. You have a team.
Right.
It's just me. So I have to be more selective. So email and LinkedIn are my things. I love Instagram, YouTube too. Like I would totally do it if I had more time and energy.
There might be some things that we could share about how you can post. You can actually schedule and set up stuff to post to multiple platforms and automate some things a little bit.
Right.
I don't know if you've explored that at all.
A little bit, but that's a lot of content creation.
It is.
So that's where, yes, that I would love a Jordan in my life.
Yep. We actually have a meeting coming up with some software that we launched last year. They have been really good at that content creation and recycling bits of content from multiple things.
Yes.
And when you do that, then you don't have to start from scratch every time you're doing something. You have something to start from. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I have to assume that when you're looking for, like, you're either going to go to, like, if you're, let's say, a consultant and you're going to be at a client, they might look at your LinkedIn profile. If you're going to go apply for a job somewhere, they might look at your socials. So you probably don't want anything there that you would want to detract from your objectives.
Right. So keep it professional. And that's something that some of the younger generations maybe aren't as savvy about.
Right.
Yeah. You want it. So your nonverbals, they are figuring out a whole lot about you from the pictures you've posted, the words you're using, the content you're posting.
So if you're on your personal, first of all, if you don't want anybody to see it, then you better block it. Now, I know there's some sleuths out there that know some techniques on how to get at personal. So that's something probably for a whole nother podcast. But first of all, you should have your profile secured so that not everybody can see it.
Right.
And then I would assume that, and certainly not on the LinkedIn type socials, but don't have swearing, extreme views. Content, like angry content, angry responses, be very judicious.
Right. So yeah, my big kind of, it's not my slogan, but your nonverbals are talking. You need to know what they're saying. So what, if I never met you before and I pull up your image, what is it going to say about you? And that goes for the website, for everything, that we want to be really intentional with that.
So if I'm wearing a really loud shirt.
I like your shirt.
Okay. So I'm wearing a really loud shirt and I haven't shaved in a while and stuff that, I don't know, what does that say?
Well, a lot.
Okay.
Right. I mean, that's why the fashion industry is on pace. I think it's a 2025 to be like $1 trillion industry because so those are called ornaments. So your hair, do you wear makeup? Do you wear a tie? Do you wear a suit, a fancy watch? Like all of those things is part of your image. And that's one of the easiest things to control. And that's why companies will often have uniforms because they want to have a say in that.
So where is the world going with that these days? Do you think we're going to become more casual or we're going to become... So I think there was a big move in the 90s to go to, I remember...
Casual Friday or...
Yep. 96 was my first job out of college. And then I had to wear a suit to work. And I was an analyst, programmer analyst. And then we got casual Fridays, which were where we could wear like slacks and like a golf shirt. And then slowly it became slacks and golf shirt during the week and then jeans on Friday if we met our donations to United Way or something like that.
Right.
Now.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's a company culture thing. So it's like, what is the brand of your company? So you're going to dictate that.
Right.
I just did a post, it's going to be coming out, where it's called the red sneaker effect, that if you do something different, like, so this is a prime example, like you go to a really fancy event and you see the billionaire in a hoodie and jeans, they can pull it off.
Right.
Because that's viewed as clout. And if you dig deeper, like they can back it up and they don't feel the social pressure to show up like everyone else. So there's a little bit, I don't know, it's kind of how you want to leverage it.
We should talk about that because I want to explore that a bit. What my policy is, like when we're at client site, for instance, is that we want to mirror our customers.
Yes.
And by mirror them, if their policy is business casual and that means dress pants and a collared shirt, then we should at least do that, but don't overdo it. I had a leader of a company that I was consulting for tell me that you, Jeff, you really shouldn't be wearing your suit jackets and stuff here. It's making people feel like maybe a little bit more disconnected from them.
So the science says we like people like ourselves. So that's true. That if you can maybe dress a little bit nicer, but I'm going to communicate someone who's on my level.
Right.
That if you're showing up in a business suit and I'm in a hoodie, I might not feel like I can connect with you.
Right. Well, I adjusted.
Yes.
Right away, immediately I adjusted. So
yeah.
I'm trying to think of where I have some events coming up. Maybe I want to, I want to do something really splashy, but I'm not sure what.
Well, the red sneaker effect really got me thinking too, like what is enough to be different, but still, there's an art to that.
So I don't know if this would count for that, but when I was in Texas, I wore a cowboy hat. Did you see the pictures from that?
I loved it.
Yeah. And I felt really comfortable in a cowboy hat, even though there were only two of us. It was me and another one of my colleagues from another company. And that's his trademark. And when I found out that was kind of his trademark, I felt bad about it. However, we talked and he's like, oh, no, it's all good.
So we'll call that the cowboy hat effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it made me more approachable by people. I tried going back down to the main floor without a cowboy hat on. And at that event, people did not connect with me because I got used to seeing me with a cowboy hat and it completely changed the perspective. Right. So what have I done since then? I have bought a silver belt buckle with a big letter G on it.
Nice.
And I tried wearing it the other day. I showed Lisa and she's like, no. So I have to pick the right event, and then I'm going to sport that big G belt buckle. Have you seen it, Jordan? Can you picture it? It's about this big.
I love it.
A big G on it.
Okay, and as you know, I'm interested in charisma, and that's a way to show charisma. With ornaments.
Good. Yeah, I wasn't always confident, and I don't know. That's probably a topic for a whole nother podcast, but. Generally speaking, I was, back years ago, I would rather have been at home watching movies than out in public. And it's gotten to be now where I like being around other people more. Right. So
that can change with age, with experience, with competence begets confidence.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then when you're getting in front of microphones and stuff like that, talking in front of crowds,
Yep.
I very rarely get nervous anymore. If I'm talking in front of my peers about something that's like technical or of a like an intelligence nature that's like related to what I'm doing, I get a little bit nervous, but not like maybe I would have years ago. And I think that's because of repetition.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you know this, but how I earned my way through college and supported our family was I was a wedding DJ.
Ooh.
Did that for 12 years. And when I was doing, it was probably averaged almost 2 a week for 12 years.
Wow.
So you think about that adds up pretty quickly. It's it's like 100 a year.
Right.
Times 12 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a lot.
even if you round down, there were school dances and stuff mixed in there too, but you have to be in front of everybody. Everybody, you say something, they're looking at you. So.
Right.
I learned how to control.
Yes. And I just read somewhere too that it's really primal. Like our fear of it is because obviously being judged, but just like, yeah, it's like a survival thing. Like if all the wolves are looking at you, you want to survive.
That's right.
Right. So that it's kind of this deep seated thing. So just like breathing and understanding how that it's your body just trying to keep you safe.
Right. Well, that's helpful. They're not wolves. Yeah, but they are all looking at you, criticizing you.
Yes. Yeah. Silently judging.
That's right. Silently. Oh, your shoes. Oh, your belt. Oh,
your hat.
That's right. So what's next for Kristen?
What's next? And I want to thank you because you were brave enough, courageous enough to partner with me this year. And that was super helpful and informative and gave me great feedback. So I want to do more working with teams, probably on a quarterly basis where we meet once a month and kind of dive into some of the stuff we talked about, like body language basics, but also speaking, preparing for conferences, the copy, the digital, all that kind of stuff, and do more of a focused. So I liked that we met quarterly, but I think there's also some value in just sort of a blitz, like doing a quarterly blitz on what would really move the needle for your team.
So spending a whole quarter weekly or
monthly coming in and doing trainings, but then doing stuff throughout the month.
For a whole quarter and blitz it.
Yep. So I'm going to see how that goes and kind of take it from there.
How are you getting the word out there?
I'm going on podcasts.
Excellent.
I'm pulling it together.
I don't know how many people are going to hear this, but for all those, make sure you check it out.
At social media, I'm working with a coach in mid-December, and I'm going to start pulling that together.
Okay, great. Well, I look forward to seeing what happens with that. And certainly, I know we went through a whole year of quarterly, and it's been really helpful. I don't know what 24 has to offer yet, but we do need a touch-up once in a while for sure.
Absolutely.
And we have new people starting, and you never know. We might be presenting more at more conferences and need to, bone up on our abilities.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, very good.
Yes.
So thank you, Kristen, for joining us today. This was very enlightening and entertaining.
And a pleasure as always. I love your company.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Big time. And how can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My personal, it's Kristin Bock, Bock, and my website, Body Language Blueprints.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Make sure to go look her up. We are so glad that you were able to join us today. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more exciting content. Make sure to reach out to us through our website if there's an IT topic you'd like us to discuss. And thank you for this conversation as you chart your course to your next destination. May your journey be filled with purpose and confidence. Until then, stay true to your compass.